Why is it that some people seem to age overnight after turning 80? One year they're laughing, walking sharp as ever. Then suddenly they're not. What changed? Was it fate? Was it genetics? Or was it something else? Something subtle, hidden in plain sight. In this video, we're peeling back the curtain on 5 overlooked reasons why many people begin to fade after 80, even those who lived active, mindful, and healthy lives. And trust me, it's not what you think. These aren't the usual warnings about poor diet, lack of exercise, or smoking. These are invisible forces, and if you catch them early, you can actually rewrite the way you age. So stay with me, because what you're about to learn could change not just your years, but your quality of life. Number 1. The disappearance of micro-social engagement. The first and perhaps most underestimated reason for post-80 decline is something called micro-social engagement. It's a term that sounds complex, but it simply refers to the small, everyday social interactions that quietly fill our lives with human connection. These aren't long heart-to-hearts with family or deep conversations with old friends, though those certainly matter. No, this is even smaller, more fleeting. It's the smile to the barista when you order coffee, the quick wave to your neighbor across the street, the polite good morning to the person walking their dog. These moments seem trivial, but they are actually powerful neural activators. They stimulate the social brain, reduce feelings of isolation, and even regulate hormones and blood pressure. They're like tiny drops of vitality being added to your day without you even realizing it. But what happens when these drop off after 80? Many people stop going out as much. Maybe it's too cold. Maybe the knees are stiff. Maybe online shopping replaces the weekly trip to the market. Maybe hearing isn't what it used to be, so casual conversation becomes an effort. One by one, those social interactions fade. But when they go, something else quietly leaves with them: your vitality. It doesn't feel dramatic. It feels like simplifying life. But what you're actually doing is depriving your brain of the small social signals that tell it. You are still part of the world, and that has consequences. I once met a man named Harold, 85 years old. Every morning, rain or shine, he walked to the same cafe, greeted the same cashier, sat at the same window. He told me it gave his day structure. It's not about the coffee, he said. It's about being seen. That daily rhythm, those tiny acknowledgements, they were keeping his brain alive, his memory sharp, his mood stable. The science backs this up. The brain interprets loneliness as a threat. Not just deep, aching loneliness, but the subtle, creeping kind. And when that happens, stress hormones rise, inflammation increases, and the neural circuits responsible for memory, attention, and emotional regulation begin to wither. In simpler terms, without those micro-interactions, your mind begins to shut down. So ask yourself, when was the last time you had a spontaneous chat with a stranger? Greeted someone just for the sake of connection? If you've stopped doing that, whether from habit, discomfort, or fatigue, it's time to bring it back. Because those little moments may be doing more to keep you alive than any pill ever could. Number 2. Overcautious inactivity. Let's move to the second quiet killer of longevity after 80. Cautious inactivity. Now, on the surface, it seems wise. You're just being careful, right? Avoiding risk. Playing it safe. But there's a fine line between being safe and slowly slipping into stillness. And once you cross that line, the body starts to pay the price. It often begins with something small. A missed step on the stairs, a slip on the sidewalk. Maybe no injury, just a scare. So you make what feels like a smart decision. You avoid the stairs, the uneven path, the bending and reaching. You sit more, rest longer, stay inside. And everyone around you nods with approval. Better safe than sorry, they say. But what no one tells you is this. When movement stops, so does strength. And when strength fades, so does independence, not just in the arms or legs, but in the balance, the coordination, the invisible muscle memory that makes movement feel natural. It all begins to slip. The body isn't like a machine that wears down with use. It's more like a garden. It thrives when tended. When left alone, it withers. One of the first areas to suffer is the core. These are the deep muscles in your abdomen and back that stabilize every movement you make, from standing and walking to reaching or even coughing. If you stop using them, they start to atrophy in weeks. Not months, weeks. I remember Walter, 82 years old. He used to walk a mile every night after dinner. Then one rainy evening he slipped. No injury, but it shook him. The next night he stayed in, and the night after that. Soon his evening walks became television nights. Within 2 months his balance had noticeably declined. He started needing help with basic things, getting up, going down steps, even steadying himself after standing too fast. The irony. He thought he was protecting himself. In reality, he was quietly trading movement for fragility. Now, does this mean you should be reckless? Of course not. But there's a difference between wise caution and fear-based retreat. You can be safe and still stay active. Even short, gentle movements like standing for a few minutes each hour, stretching the arms overhead, or walking around the block can protect the very muscles and balance systems that keep you from falling in the first place. It's not about going to the gym or lifting heavy weights. It's about telling your body daily, I still need you, and your body will respond. That's the magic of movement. It wakes up systems that would otherwise go quiet. So if the first quiet danger is fading social contact and the second is freezing your body in the name of safety, what else could be silently stealing years from you after 80? Stay with me, because the next 3 reasons might surprise you even more. We'll explore how things like mental rigidity, emotional withdrawal, and the loss of personal mission can all accelerate aging from the inside out. And more importantly, we'll talk about how to reverse that process, even if it's already begun. So before you chalk up aging to bad luck, or just how it goes, realize this. The power to live well into your 80s, 90s, and beyond isn't locked in your DNA. It's built every day by the choices you make, especially the small ones. Let's keep going. Walter's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest losses come not from a single event, but from the gradual choices we make out of fear. It wasn't his strength that failed him. It was his decision to stop moving that caused his strength to vanish. Within just 6 months of cutting back his evening walks, Walter had lost 10 pounds of lean muscle mass. His legs, once steady and reliable, started to feel unsteady like jelly beneath him. The change wasn't subtle. He noticed it, his family noticed it, and eventually so did his doctor. Blood tests confirmed the muscle loss, and his balance had worsened. But by the time the warnings came, the damage had already begun to take hold. And here's what's crucial. Walter didn't become weak because aging made him fragile. He became fragile because he stopped moving. Let that sink in. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to ignore real risk. Being cautious can be wise. It's important to adapt. Use the handrails. Choose stable, well-fitting shoes. Keep walkways clear of clutter. Use a cane or walker if it gives you confidence or stability. These are tools of empowerment, not signs of failure. But there's a significant difference between managing risk and surrendering to it. When fear starts to dictate your decisions, when what if becomes your daily guide, the body takes notice, and not in a good way. It begins to shut down systems it no longer believes are necessary. Muscles shrink from lack of use, reflexes dull, balance becomes shaky. Even your brain begins to pull back its support for movement because it assumes you're done needing it. It's not just about the body forgetting how to move. It's about the entire system believing the movement chapter of your life has ended. And if you've ever caught yourself avoiding physical activity not because you can't, but because you're afraid of what might happen if you try, that's a red flag. Ask yourself, am I truly protecting myself, or am I quietly vanishing? Because after 80, the goal isn't just to avoid injury. It's to stay fully, vividly alive. And staying alive requires movement, not reckless, dramatic movement, but steady, conscious, life-affirming activity. Even if it's slower, even if it's more deliberate, even if it takes effort. Movement sends a signal to your body. We're still needed. We still have purpose. It keeps your balance systems awake. It keeps your heart working with intention. It keeps your brain alert, your metabolism steady, your mood more even. In fact, movement is one of the few activities that affects nearly every single system in your body at once. And here's the beautiful part: recovery is possible. Muscle responds at any age. Neuroplasticity. The brain's ability to adapt continues well into your 80s and beyond. Strength can be rebuilt, confidence can be restored, but only if you decide not to disappear. So if you've found yourself sitting more than you used to, if you no longer walk just for the sake of walking, if you've made your world smaller out of caution, it might be time to gently, intentionally widen it again. Take small steps. Walk to the mailbox. Stretch for 3 minutes when you wake up. Stand during commercial breaks. These aren't just exercises, they're declarations. You're telling your body, we're still in this. And while you're here, if this video is sparking something in you, if you feel seen or encouraged by what you're hearing, do me a small favor. Leave a comment below with the number 2. That lets me know you're still with me and that this content matters to you. And if you haven't already, now's a great time to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support truly helps us continue making videos that empower and inform. Now let's move on to something that affects your entire body's rhythm. Something so quiet many people never notice it's slipping. Your internal clock. Number 3. Disrupted sleep cycles from irregular light exposure. Inside your body right now is a silent clock. You can't hear it tick, but it controls nearly everything. Your mood, your energy, your immune function, even how your brain heals itself overnight. It's called your circadian rhythm, and after age 80 it becomes especially delicate. One of the most common reasons it gets disrupted: not enough exposure to bright natural light during the day and too much artificial light at night. This might seem like a small thing. Maybe you find yourself napping more often during the day. Or maybe you don't go outside as much, especially when it's chilly or damp. You turn on the TV at night, scroll your phone in bed, or leave the lights on a little too long. Each of these habits may seem harmless, but together they quietly confuse your body. Your brain begins to forget when it's time to be awake and when it's time to rest. Bright daylight is what tells your body, it's morning. Get up, move, think, digest, go, and darkness. That's the cue for melatonin, the hormone that soothes your body into deep, restorative sleep. When you don't get that morning light, or when your evenings are flooded with blue light from screens and overhead lighting, your internal signals become scrambled. You might have trouble falling asleep. You might toss and turn more than usual. Or you might wake up feeling foggy even after a full night in bed. Daytime energy dips. Focus becomes harder. Memory may feel a little clouded. But the effects don't stop there. Poor sleep weakens your immune system. It destabilizes your mood. And over time it increases your risk for cognitive decline. There's also the issue of vitamin D, which your skin produces when exposed to sunlight. After 80, your skin becomes less efficient at making vitamin D. So if you're not getting outside regularly, your levels may drop, affecting your bones, your strength, your immune response, even your sense of balance. I remember speaking with Helen, an 84-year-old woman who had been feeling off for months. No new medications. Her labs looked fine. But she was exhausted, forgetful, and withdrawn. Her doctor made one simple suggestion. Open the curtains wide each morning. Sit by the window for 20 minutes. And at night, turn off all screens at least 1 hour before bed. That was it, and within 2 weeks her energy returned. Her sleep improved. Her mood lifted. No new prescription, just natural light and circadian respect. So if you've been keeping your curtains closed or spending your evenings under artificial lighting, try this. Go outside within an hour of waking up, even if it's just to stand on your porch or sit near a window. Let that early sunlight hit your eyes and skin. At night, dim the lights. Shut off screens an hour before sleep. These gentle rhythms might feel small, but they are profound. Because aging isn't just about the body breaking down. It's also about systems falling out of sync and restoring those rhythms. That's how you bring the body back into harmony. That's how you say to your cells, your heart, your brain, we are still here. We are still alive. We are still moving. As we just explored light and rhythm, keep our bodies synchronized. But what happens when emotional pain, especially the kind that goes unspoken, starts to build up beneath the surface? Number 4, emotional suppression from loss and isolation. Over time, unspoken grief doesn't just live in the heart, it begins to live in the body. When you carry emotional pain without processing it, it doesn't quietly disappear. It accumulates. Slowly, silently, it begins to wear on your physical health. Your immune system weakens, your digestion becomes sluggish, sleep becomes fragmented, your hormone levels shift, and your nervous system enters a subtle, continuous state of low-level stress. And yet from the outside, everything might look completely fine. You might still smile. You might still say, "I'm okay." But deep down, something feels heavier. Perhaps your shoulders ache without explanation. Maybe your breaths are shallower than they used to be. Maybe the spark that once lit up your face has dimmed so slightly that only you notice. But it's enough to feel like you're not quite yourself anymore. That's the hidden power of grief. It doesn't always look like sadness or tears. Sometimes it shows up as withdrawal, fatigue, a quiet disinterest in life. And by the time it manifests physically, the connection to the original loss may not even be obvious. I remember George, 86 years old, dignified, soft-spoken. A man who had spent 6 decades married to the love of his life. When she passed away, George didn't cry much. "It's not really my way," he said. "I'm managing." But within a year, everything about him had changed. He had lost weight. He stopped going to the senior center where he once enjoyed afternoon games and conversation. His sleep became restless, not because of any new illness, but because his body was holding on to sorrow that he'd never allowed himself to feel. That's the thing about emotional pain. It doesn't need to be loud to be damaging. And that's why people who live well into their 80s and 90s often have one surprising trait in common. They don't suppress their emotions. They find ways to release them. They have emotional ventilation. They talk to someone. They cry when they need to. They say the hard things like, "I still miss him. I feel lonely sometimes. I'm afraid of what's next." They don't pretend to be invincible. And in doing so, they free their hearts to breathe again. And when the heart can breathe, when it isn't clenched by silence or swallowed grief, the body finds the strength to heal. This doesn't always mean talking to a therapist, although that can be helpful. It might be something as simple as keeping a journal where you can be honest without judgment. It might be leaning on a faith practice that gives you space to grieve. It might be opening up to a trusted friend or a support group of others who've experienced similar loss. Whatever the method, the principle is universal. What is expressed can be transformed. What is buried festers. And the longer you carry something heavy in silence, the more it begins to weigh down the very systems designed to keep you alive. So if you've been carrying an ache, an old sadness, a quiet fear, a deep longing, but you've never given yourself the space to name it, to feel it, to express it, maybe it's time. Not just for your emotional well-being, but for your physical survival. Because there's only so much the heart can hold before it starts to close in on itself. And if you want to thrive beyond 80, not just existing, but truly living, you must let yourself feel. Not all the time, not all at once, but little by little. Feel the sadness, feel the missing, feel the memory, and trust that by feeling it, you free it. And if you've made it this far in the video and this part is speaking to you, please comment the number 4 below. It helps us know that this message is reaching someone who needed to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now might be a good time. Tap that button and the bell beside it so you don't miss what's coming next. Now let's move into the final and perhaps most quietly powerful reason many people don't thrive past 80. Number 5. The gradual loss of daily purpose. One of the most invisible, yet deeply impactful reasons for physical and emotional decline in later years is the quiet erosion of daily purpose. Not life purpose in the grand philosophical sense, not solving world hunger or writing a memoir. No, this is the simpler kind, the kind that gives rhythm and reason to the day. The kind that gets you up in the morning because there's something or someone waiting on you. Purpose doesn't have to be extraordinary. It can be as ordinary as remembering to water your plants before the sun gets too hot. Feeding the neighborhood cat who's waiting outside your door. Writing a postcard to your granddaughter. Fixing a squeaky hinge on the back gate. Small things, but they matter. Because when these small routines begin to disappear, when mornings arrive with no reason to rise, and evenings pass with nothing to reflect on the spirit dims. The days blur, and slowly the body starts to follow. You may start skipping meals, you may stop moving as much, you may start feeling invisible even to yourself. It's not because you're lazy, it's because your body is waiting for a cue, any cue that it's still needed. And when it doesn't get that cue, it begins to down-regulate. Systems that once functioned with precision begin to slow, not because they're broken, but because they're waiting for a reason to turn back on. It's often so gradual, it's hard to notice. Maybe your bridge group disbanded. Maybe the community center shut down. Maybe your kids visit less often, or your knees kept you from volunteering like you used to. And you tell yourself, it's just aging. But somewhere deep down you know the truth. You don't feel necessary anymore. And that more than any diagnosis is what starts to dim the light inside. But here's the beauty, it doesn't take much to reignite that light. I once met a woman named Ruth. She was 88, not rich, not in perfect health. Not surrounded by family, but she was alive, vibrantly so. Why? Because every Monday she wrote postcards to members of her church who couldn't leave home. Every Thursday she made soup and froze it for a local shelter. And every single afternoon, at 4:00 p.m., she sat by the window to wave at the neighborhood kids walking home from school. She knew their names. They knew hers. It was small, but it was everything. It gave her day shape, it gave her heart rhythm, it gave her life continuity. That's the quiet secret of long life. The body stays alive as long as it believes it's needed. Purpose, no matter how modest, is fuel. It tells your cells, keep repairing. It tells your heart, keep beating. It tells your brain, keep learning. When you lose that, the fire begins to fade. So if you've been feeling adrift, if your days have started to blur, your motivation slipping, don't ignore it. That's not just sadness. That's a signal. Your body is asking for rhythm again, for meaning, for purpose. It can be as simple as a walk at the same time each day, a call with someone you love, a journal entry, a prayer. Because in the end, staying alive isn't just about your heart beating. It's about your heart wanting to beat. Final thoughts. If you've made it to the end of this video, I want to leave you with this. Most people don't fade after 80 because of one big event. Not a diagnosis, not a fall, not a birthday. They fade because the rhythms that kept them engaged slowly dissolve. The small routines disappear. The emotional expression quiets, the movement stops, the meaning fades. But here's the hope. Just as decline happens slowly, revival can begin slowly too. One stretch, one conversation, one walk, one small task that gives you a reason to wake up tomorrow. So think back to the 5 reasons we've explored today. Which one surprised you the most? Which one felt a little too familiar? And more importantly, which one are you willing to address just a little starting today? Because no matter what age you are, you have more power than you think. Not to stop aging, but to change the way you age. If this video meant something to you, please leave a comment below. Share what stood out. Share what you're going to do differently. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who might need a little encouragement today. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you deeply, and we'll see you in the next video.